Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, taking a look at our daily candle, we did get a nice move to the downside, got a nice dip, kind of like I suggested yesterday. We went through this order block right here around 65,000, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We did touch the weekly open at around 64.7, it looks like. So if I were to take a look at this candle, our low is 64,709 cents, or 90 cents, I should say. So we basically tapped the weekly open, which is kind of what I was expecting. Now, the true question right now is whether or not we can get back above the basically the Monday midnight open, which is at 64,912. That's kind of what I would be projecting for right now. I am expecting a bounce. As long as we can stay above weekly open, we can expect to long the market basically. So I am expecting a bounce right here. You can see I kind of pulled a fib level, and I'll dive into that more, kind of where I pulled that from. But we almost got to it. It was around 64,653. But it's no surprise to me that we did bounce off of weekly open, at least for right now. Looking at the 12-hour, we basically wicked to the 21 MA, so another bullish sign. As long as we can basically keep our weekly open, I got to remain bullish for the week still. It doesn't mean that we're going to have a huge bullish close. It just means that we're probably going to close a green candle for the week. Taking a look at the 8-hour. So the 8-hour, I do want to see price get back above the 64,919 level. Obviously we're right next to it, so definitely is a big possibility that we can do that. As long as we can kind of, honestly, what I want to see is some consolidation in here. As long as we can consolidate and eventually break out, I would like to see, obviously the 21 crossing the 200 to the upside for the 8-hour. But as long as we can get some nice bullish consolidation here, that's definitely a possibility, and we could really break out with a strong move to the upside. So definitely not flipping bearish just yet. I know I mentioned that on the 4-hour, if we lost to 21, I would be more bearish, but because we got a wick off of the weekly open, it does give me some hope that we could potentially get a nice bounce here. So if you take a look, we cleanly lost that 21 MA around 65,720. We basically are bouncing off of 64,888, which is our 50 MA on the 4-hour. So, as long as we can keep that weekly open, I am going to remain somewhat bullish on this in this environment here. Taking a look at our 1-hour. So our 1-hour is getting that bounce off of the 200, and that's going to be critical for today. So I would definitely for today watch your 1-hour 200 MA. If we can stay above it, there's a decent chance we could at least recover back to about 65.6, which would be tapping that 21 MA up there. A potential is if we do roll over and we get below the weekly open, you would basically look to bounce off of the 2-hour 200 MA, so that would be around 64,140. And then obviously you would be testing the 3-hour, which is down, 63,190. I don't know so then it would be the 3-hour, which is 63,190, and then the 4-hour, which would be around 62,887. So those are all some levels to watch out for if we were to get that low. But ideally, if we are going to remain bullish, this is kind of the time that, we have to focus on, because again, I want to see the 8-hour 21 crossing the 200. And if we get, below the 21, or we start closing candles below the 21 on the 8-hour, that is going to give us more of a bearish sign for the 21 to start curving over. And we're basically, at that point, there's a potential we get rejected from that move happening. So definitely for today, I would say watch your 8-hour to see where we are in comparison to the 21. And then I would definitely watch your 1-hour and your 2-hour to see kind of where we could potentially be bouncing off of in regards to the 200 MA. So with that being said, guys, as far as levels go, I was taking a look at this fib pull right here, which would take it basically from this lower high right here all the way up to the very top. You did have a 786 around 64,653. We did get the bounce off of the 0.75, which is about 64,757. But I am expecting for price to get some sort of move up from here. I do think that we're going to get some sort of bounce from here, at least temporarily. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and, as far as levels go, 65,186 is going to be your first level. That's kind of where been getting rejected off of as a resistance line. Now we flipped it. And then to the downside, if we were to continue moving down, I would expect, maybe testing around 63,940, maybe getting a bounce off of there. That's a support level for us for right now. All right, guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity, see how everything lines up. All right. So taking a look at liquidity here, you can see that we are getting, again, on the 4 hour, some sort of a bounce off of the 50, which is a great sign. The only thing that kind of worries me a little bit is we do have some liquidity down here to take us down to that 62,888 level, potentially, and even get us lower into the 60,000 range if it wanted to. So just be extremely careful for the remainder of the week. There is a possibility that we continue this rollover, make some sort of a right shoulder and continue down. But for right now, we have to assume that we're going to keep that bullish sentiment, at least as long as we keep the 64,700 area, which was our weekly open. Now, there's a potential that we could move to the upside. Let me check off the 10X. Yeah, so, you do have, red closer to you to the upside to about 68,705, which basically alludes to the fact that we could get that 8 hour 21,200 cross. If we get that, then this area, this red liquidity area is definitely, I'm going to be eyeing that 68.5-ish area as long as we can get that cross. Now, if we do get rejected, guys, on the 8 hour, that's when I would be expecting this liquidity to be taken out down below at first to about the 60,000 level we've been talking about. And then furthermore, more than likely, we'll probably visit the 50, we could visit potentially the 57-ish area and the 56-ish area to take out this double bottom. So it's really going to depend on where our sentiment is at currently in the market. Obviously, it's the summer months, you have very low volume, so this could really be taken either way. We could even come up here first to the 68 level, get rejected, and then come all the way down here to the 50s again. Lots of different possibilities for right now. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the hourly. So taking a look at the 1 hour, you can see that we have more liquidity right now to the upside as far as, I believe these are just the 100X pool. So you basically took out the majority of the liquidity for right now on the 100X. To the downside, you have it to about 64.5. But it does give us the, kind of the sense that we are going to get some sort of a bounce up, maybe to a bearish 786 potentially. If that were the case, I would probably be targeting, let's see, let me take this off here. So I'd probably be pulling it from this impulse down. So you'd be looking about 66,288 potentially, maybe taking out this double top right here. So that is a move to the upside if we were to get kind of a violent move back up. And it does, it doesn't really look like it aligns with liquidity. So I wonder if it would be mainly maybe from this area. So maybe on 66,000 even, maybe from that double top right there for right now. Yeah, that kind of aligns with liquidity. So I would maybe be expecting that potentially for right now if we were to get that bounce back up around 66,000. And then, obviously, depending on how we consolidate from there, if we are still bullish, you want to see that move, that continuation move up from here, up into the 67-ish range to take out some of these double tops here. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the 15-minute. 15-minute kind of showing the same thing in regards to the 100X. 50X does show that we do have some additional legs down, unfortunately, but you can see how this 786 does align kind of with that last bit of liquidity right here, as well as the 200 MA. So there's a potential on the 15 that we could get rejected off of the 200 if we were to get a move up for right now. So I would definitely watch 66,000 for today. To the downside, again, guys, if we were to get that rollover, you're going to have to watch each of those different time frames. So the 2 hour, the 3 hour, the 4 hour, you definitely want to see a bounce off of one of those. In worst case scenario, we get all the way down here into the 60,000 range again. So for right now, those are kind of your levels that I'm seeing, as far as liquidity goes. If we take a real quick look at our order book, you can see that, we do have some big orders right below us, but they can be potentially used as support. So you can see we have one at 64.7, a really good sized order. We have another one at 64.675 and another one at 64.625. So whenever you have consistent orders like that are huge, it usually means that that's a support zone. Normally price won't go into that zone until those start to ease up. So for right now, we can basically treat this zone as a support zone. You can see price even is reversing from there, obviously, but at least a little bit. I would, again, be targeting 66,000. That's kind of where this order is at right here, up here. So that's kind of be my first place I would be targeting. But one good thing is that you are getting some orders to the upside as well, all the way up to about 68,000. So definitely there's a potential that we get a reversal right now. Not that we're going to make a new high for the week, but at least we could maybe hopefully start consolidating upwards because we did get that decent dump down. Let's finally take a look at our simple map, see where that's at. So let me refresh this here. So for the simple map, you're basically right next to the short liquidity, 100x, some 100x, mainly 50x and 25x. But you do have a lot of 100x to the upside. So a lot of people have been shorting the market, kind of chasing short. You got a lot of 100x, a lot of 50x. So that's a good sign for the bulls. It means that we do have a decent sign to be able to possibly move our way back upward. So I definitely think that there's a potential that we could get back up at least to about, this shows, where's this little impulse here? This is about 65, 300-ish. I would like to see us get up to here at least, so 66,000. So I would at least target 66,000 for right now for us to potentially get back up to if we were to get that move up. So maybe getting kind of rejected off of that impulse right there, that bar. Taking a look at the swing time frames, kind of showing the same thing. We're finding hopefully some support right here because we're right next to some of the bigger liquidity to the downside for the shorts. But again, we do have some to the upside for the longs to be able to take out. So definitely are starting to build a nice bridge to the upside of more high leveraged liquidity. So that's definitely a very good sign for the longs. But again, I already told you my levels I'm looking out for. That's kind of what I'm seeing across the board between liquidity and our order book as well, along with the levels that I see visually on the chart. So 66 is going to be your target for today for possibly a high. And then obviously to the downside, you'd be getting into the 63 range area here, 63, 600, 63, 500, that type of thing, I would say. So with that being said, guys, that is what I have for you for today. Feel free to use my code Sean. It is in the description of the video. So use my code Sean, you'll get 10% off of the tools through Trading Different. That being said, guys, I'm going to leave it there.